So Squid Game is what I'd call a masterclass in writing gender, with each and every character being written and developed to near perfection. And sure, while certain Season 2 characters have been in the news for being controversial, I'd still consider them to have been written and developed extremely well. And in fact, I'd go so far as to credit Squid Game and its characters, Hyunju included, to be some of the best and high quality examples of how to write and use gender and equality in your series. For you see, the entirety of the game's existence, according to Dong-hyuk, the creator of Squid Game, is to offer the marginalized and less fortunate of today's society a redo, a second chance for each and every person to live a better life, a life they truly want to live. Inside the games, there's no class structure or hierarchy, no boss or employee. You and every other contestant are considered equal with the same odds of survival as each other. And this is of course seen with the games themselves, with them of course being games designed for kids. Now sure, this is of course to offer a nostalgic blast from the past, but it's also designed with the purpose of limiting the physical and genetic attributes that certain characters and genders would have in certain games. For example, when playing Honeycomb, player 101 has the same chances of passing as the arguably weaker 067. There's no advantage in being bigger, stronger, or faster when it comes to the red light, green light game. And in fact, just being bigger and taller would just place you in the front of the line and in a more dangerous position. So immediately, as you can see, the competition and the structure of the games themselves only ever serve the ones in charge. And for the players themselves, you could argue that they need luck for any chance of winning. And again, that's part of what makes Squid Game's use of equal chance so fun and interesting. There's an equal chance that 456 wins once again, and an equal chance that he of course dies, which at least to me is a big reason for why I continue to watch. It's the uncertainty of who will die next that's so captivating. But now, it's not just the equality found in the games themselves that's so interesting and well developed, as throughout both seasons we see examples of extremely masterful writing when it comes to both the development of the show's men and women, as well as its trans women. Which, I can't lie, was extremely surprising to me. Because in Korea, as much as it's a beautiful and incredible place, it's a place that still considers its women, more often than not, to be less than and just something to be seen and not heard. They're, from my perspective as someone looking in from the outside, treated with less respect than their male counterparts. So for a Korean show such as Squid Game to develop them in the way that it has is a testament to Dong-hyuk's want to create a great story rather than him following and complying with the social norms found in the world around him. Like take Season 2 for example. It did something nobody expected and something extremely controversial that nobody asked for or desired, but something that was of course handled to near perfection once again. And that's of course the introduction of Hyunju, or player 120, who of course is the trans woman introduced in this season. Now immediately this character's introduction was met with some hate and discourse online, with the majority calling Squid Game Season 2 trash and wokeified because of it, with Dong-hyuk himself even coming out post Season 2's release and admitting that he anticipated such discussions coming his way. But you see, while such discussions and displays in the media around this topic have in the modern day become something almost taboo and political, its place in this series is extremely understandable and almost needed in a way. Because as we of course mentioned earlier, Squid Game is a second chance for the neglected and the ignored in the world, which of course someone who identifies and behaves like Hyunju, a trans woman, most definitely is. But even more than that, and aside from their whole identification issue, I'd also argue that Hyunju, the trans character in the Squid Game series, also grows and develops more than any other character in the entire season. Because Hyunju, in the beginning of her character, was a very closed off individual, someone who very much identified herself by the thoughts of others, someone who struggled to make any sort of connection with anyone around. And in fact, it wouldn't have been until Youngmi, or player 95, asked her to be on her team that Hyunju would even start to grow. For you see, through meeting Youngmi and the mother and son duo, Hyunju found connection and purpose outside of her physical identity, which at this point in time was everything about her, her only purpose and personality. She wasn't considered or seen as anything more than just that trans person. But following her meeting and bonding with characters such as Youngmi and the mother and son duo, she became this fast-acting, decisive and outspoken brave leader, which of course was highlighted in the way that this trans woman who didn't want anyone to see her doing physical activities straight up took charge of gi-hun's revolution and led the way through the facility. She no longer ignored or hid that military male side of herself, and in fact used it and subsequently became the only reason player 456's revolution had any chance of succeeding. And that's exactly my point and the reason for making this video. For you see, Squid Game did something throughout this season with the development of its characters that honestly I haven't seen done to such a great extent since my first time watching Arcane. And that's of course the development and use of strong masculine women and the touch of fragile and weak men in its male characters. Which is something that may sound confusing to many of you and something that you may not have even noticed for yourself, but it's something extremely impressive and something that was handled extremely well. Allow me to explain. So first off, we of course see, as mentioned, the growth and acceptance of Hyunju's masculine nature, when she of course took charge of the situation and led the way up the stairs. But in the same moment, we of course see the falsely brave Dae-ho, or player 388, being scared shitless of the gunfire and hiding behind everyone else. He's so scared in fact that towards the end of the episode he is seen hiding under the beds, afraid to even speak a single word to Hyunju when she came looking for the ammo. Squid Game used this moment to build on the perceived weak nature of Hyunju while also revealing the falsely masculine nature of Dae-ho. But they didn't just do it in a way of building one up by knocking one down. No, because throughout the entire story they built Dae-ho up with a hint of bullshit about him. They presented his marine background on a shard of frail glass that once broke revealed the truth. That Dae-ho was a coward with no military background to speak of. He was someone who was constantly saying how great he was rather than ever showing it. Once again, another example of that saying but not showing trope, which actually parallels Hyunju's character, who is someone throughout the entire show never spoke positively about herself even once, and only ever actually showed how good she could possibly be through her actions. She showed her qualities in her actions and never spoke about any of them. Again, showing, not saying. But that's not all, as Squid Game also displayed both the strength and weakness of its female guard, number 11, when they displayed her no-fucks attitude in front of the stand-in frontman by showing her to be this brave and fearless young woman who stands on her beliefs, but then later displaying her weakness by having her beat by 2 male guards for disobeying orders. They showed her frailty when they revealed her past about her lost child, but they also subsequently showed her strength of character when they showed what she was willing to do to save that lost child. And honestly, the way mothers and motherhood is portrayed in this series is extremely complex and honestly something I find kind of amazing. Because time and time again, especially this season, we witness the lengths mothers will go to for their babies. We get to see the beautiful Jun-hee, or player 222, enter the game despite being close to her due date, just for a chance at giving her child a better life. Now of course this could also be seen as an example of bad parenting and a massive risk to the child, if you really want to look at it that way, but to me, her being a single mother who lost everything to her baby daddy, I really can't help seeing her choice to enter the game as anything more than a desperate last-ditch attempt at giving this child a better life. And it's not like she entered the games knowing exactly what awaited her on the inside. And in fact, she is actually one of the only ones that actually voted to leave every single time. So I guess you could argue that does redeem her slightly. And it's not just the strength and growth of the female characters and mothers that I want to highlight in this video, because I think it's clear from this season alone that no character has changed or has grown more than 456 or Sung Gi-hun. Now this is something I did touch on in my obsession video a while back and something I did say I would speak on again, but I won't be covering everything that I covered in that video, otherwise this video will never end. But I will have that video linked down below if you want to check it out for yourselves. Now Sung Gi-hun is a character that aside from season 2 001 has seen the most amount of death and loss. He has suffered more than pretty much any other, and honestly I can't say it's something that has made him better because of it. If you see, Sung Gi-hun changed from a kind, trusting person into someone who questions everything and everyone. He's gone from a carefree individual into an obsessive martyr, someone who's willing to even die if it means ending the games. He's basically abandoned his daughter in the pursuit of this goal, and honestly, based on his actions seen in this season, I really can't see him ever seeing her ever again. But his reasons for wanting to end the games and his reason for re-entry into the games is understandable in a way. For you see, he suffers with immense survivor's guilt from the first season, and in many ways believes himself to be this false, undeserving winner. Which, like I touched on in my previous video, is why he never uses that money for anything other than to end the games and for helping the families that of course died in those games. His reasons, while seem noble and just, are arguably more selfish than you'd first realise. He's basically just after closure. He wants to get rid of this immense guilt and grief that he has from season 1. He places the games as the guilty party because it's easier than blaming himself. And what's incredibly sad, at least to me, is that even if he does manage to end these games and live while doing so, I just don't see this guilt and grief ever going away. It's something I believe will always be strapped to him for the rest of his life. Games or no games, he will always be suffering from the past and the loss that he experienced in those games. Nothing is ever going to change that. But now that's about all I got for you in this Squid Game Season 2 video. And in fact, this may be my final video on this topic in general until Season 3 drops in the future. But with that said, we've got loads of more video ideas in the think tank and we're just waiting to release them all. So if you'd like to join us on this incredible journey, then please like the video down below and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. But for now, and with that said, I'm out. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and peace.